So we heard about the different things that the children will be learning, but how are we going to know what they have learned, what has been the process of learning, and how is that learning going to be visible to us? So that is where documentation comes in place. So let's look at some of the questions regarding documentation. I'm sure a lot of you have questions regarding what is documentation? What exactly is documentation? Why is it such a key element of the Reggio approach? Is it really necessary? How does it help the children, the teachers, and the parents? When we talk about evidence, what do we mean by the word evidence? What kind of evidence do we collect for documentation? And how can this evidence be authentic? And how, as parents, you can partner with us in this documentation process. Let's begin. What is documentation? Documentation refers to making thinking and learning visible to us. For example, if you see in the picture here, you can see that the child has recreated the farm. So this is how he has chosen to make his learning visible. And why is it such a key part of the Reggio approach? Because it helps us to understand how children learn and what they learn. So how this child has built the understanding of what constitutes a farm, what are farm animals, why can't we call a lion and a tiger as a farm animal? Why are they not there in the farm? So the process of how the child has built this understanding is very, very important for us. That is why documentation is a key part of the Reggio approach. Now, how does documentation help us? How does it help the children foremost? Next, how does it help the teachers? And how does it help the parents? When it comes to children, it helps to promote learning within the group. When children go and look at the pictures or the drawings or the writings which are put up in the classroom, it helps them to revisit their learning. They discuss within the peer group, and this in turn leads to more in-depth thinking. And it also helps in questioning. They come up with a lot of questions which helps them to build their understanding better and better. Now, how is documentation useful for the teachers? It helps us understand what are the thought processes of the child. What is the level of understanding in the class? And this in turn helps us in our planning and in our assessments. As parents, how does it help you? It helps you to get an insight into the process of learning. How has your child built his or her understanding of a particular concept or a topic? That's how it helps you. And also, we know that parents are partners in the child's learning in the Reggio approach. So documentation helps you to partner in your child's learning as well. Now, moving on, let us see what is the evidence that we collect for documentation. What do we mean by the word evidence? When we talk of evidence, we refer to anecdotes. Anecdotes are nothing but the child's thoughts or the child's voice, we would say. So for example, if I look at picture number 1, maybe the child will look at it and say, that is a monster. So we are just going to write down what the child says. That is a monster. So when we write down anecdotes, we don't write down what we think or feel it is. We write down as it is said by the child. The second evidence that we look for are photos of the children engaged in the process of learning. Third could be videos of the child explaining their understanding or engaged in the process. We saw one such video earlier now. And the fourth is children's work. It could be their illustrations, it could be their writing. So this is the evidence which we collect for documentation. Now comes the most important part. When we talk about evidence for documentation, it is very, very important that that evidence is authentic. What we mean by the term authentic is that it should be the child's work. Just like with the anecdotes, we record what the child says as it is. We need to ensure that all the work is done by the child, and only then we will be able to get a clear picture of where the child is and how we can support the learner from wherever he or she is and move on to the next level and progress. That's why it's very crucial for the evidence to be authentic. So how can you help us in collecting this evidence and partner with us in your child's learning? So when your child creates something or draws something, you could ask them a lot of questions. Like, what did you create? How did you create it? Why did you choose to create this? Where did you get this idea from? So these are the kind of questions that you could ask your children. Do not ask them the answers. Instead of telling them, is that an ant? You could rephrase that and ask them as, what is it? So that way your questions are more open-ended, and it will help you to understand the ideas or thoughts behind whatever your child has drawn or your child has created. And when they share their ideas, we request you to write it down as the child has said it. Again, I want to reiterate that it's not what we think or feel it is the child's words, which is very, very crucial. Only then the evidence is going to be authentic, and we will be able to help the learner from wherever they are to progress. So that's why we want to reiterate that please send authentic evidence and ask them a lot of questions. Children by nature are very curious and they have a lot to share. So we just need to listen to them, give them that opportunity, and just record whatever is said by them. And this will enable us to help them better with their learning. Thank you.